What is up, y'all? Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. We, of course, are the Alternates. I am your host, Brian Cullen, and with me, as always, is everyone's floor general, Clayton.
Excellent assist-to-turnover ratio.
Clayton, the General Stevens.
Thank you.
And by that, I mean insurance rates. You have the best rates in town.
I'm not even going to lie. I did have the General for a while straight up. They gave me a great rate. But then it went
you really have them
I
as an
straight up had the General.
Was it Shaq? Did he sell you on it?
The rates were good, honestly. But look, they went up. I switched.
Oof. Classic military, just switching it up, promising one thing, delivering another.
Yep.
Wow. They got you in with the rates, and then they said, well, in order for us to pay for your schooling, you have to go
that little
get
CGI
shot in
fuck.
the face. Yeah. Well, happy to have you here. Before we jump in, we've got a great show lined up for you. I want to just take a quack. You're with Aflac now. Now I get it. Now I see what's happening. I want to take a quick second and ask you all to subscribe to the show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you're still with us after that very sloppy intro that we had, go ahead and like the video, leave us a comment, drop us a rating and review. All of that stuff goes a long way. And most importantly, share the show. All of it helps people just like you find us so that we can continue to build this incredible little community of basketball alts. If you want to get a hold of us, you can do so by emailing your comments and questions to thealternateshoop@gmail.com. And next time you're on TikTok, go ahead and follow the show at The Alternates NBA. Clayton, how in the hell are you?
No, I'm turning it around on you. How are you, Brian?
I'm unprepared for this. I'm doing all right. It's the finals, enjoying it. I'm not used to the time in between games.
It's long. I don't understand why we had to go every other day in the last round, only to have
every other week for the games.
The scheduling makes zero sense to me.
Is it normal? And I just got used to these like extremely, truncated seasons where everything was crammed together? Or is this like I don't know what life was like before 2020.
I feel you because I feel the same way, but something's amiss. I don't feel like that. Like
something's up.
Something's up. But then like to fit it in such a short amount of time and then be so just like lackadaisical. Like whatever, we'll get there. It's fine.
Okay, so the NBA Finals starts on June 2nd. When's the second game? I don't know. Fucking Sunday? I've got no idea. That's what it feels like.
What day is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, time is suddenly a construct. You get to the finals and we're in the space-time continuum.
Yeah, Time Lord himself is putting the schedule together.
Oh,
you
interesting.
Like yeah.
I do like that. I appreciate that. Well, let's just get into it because obviously we got the finals on the mind here.
The NBA Finals.
The NBA Finals.
Oh, yeah. No, wow.
It's not the finals. It's the NBA Finals.
That's right.
Where 2 games have been played. Welcome to headliners, by the way. And we've got a split series. So our predictions, though different on the outcome, both predicted a long series, which is still in play here. Particularly long with these like 5 days in between games or whatever it is. So in game 1, in Golden State, Chase Center, San Francisco, we saw the Warriors have the Warriors' third quarter. Looked like it was over. They were taking it. They were home court in full effect. And then Boston comes back with one of the most incredible fourth quarter performances I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And go on to win the game 120-108, stealing home court advantage from the Warriors. Fast forward 72 days later to game 2. And the Warriors just have a complete game. Just an absolute complete game blowout. They respond with the heaviest hand here. They go on to win last night 107-88. We got 12 minutes of garbage time in this game.
It was a lot of garbage time.
It was wild. So we're going to bring back an old friend here to talk about these first 2 games. And that's Stud Dud Flood.
Yep.
The people have asked for it. It's back. It's the McRib of the Alternates NBA show here. So let's start with the stud. Through these first 2 games, where's the stud here?
It's like the McRib. It's cheap and I crave it. Okay.
I heard that McDonald's actually took removed the McRib so that it could suck its own. Anyway, so who is your stud here through the first 2 games?
My stud, it's obvious. It's Stephen Curry.
Easy pick, yeah.
He's been unreal over the first 2 games. Basically one tough quarter, but you take out that quarter, and even with that quarter, over those 2 games, he goes 12 of 28 from deep, 4 turnovers total over the 2 games, 2 in each, 63 total points, 3 steals in each game. Just having his impact felt all over the place. Game 1.
I'm sorry, hold on.
No,
I can't glaze over this. 63 points to 4 turnovers.
Right, and that's with 0 minutes played in the fourth quarter of game 2.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, he was all over the place. Obviously, game 1 comes out lightning hot from the field. The Celtics were, I don't know what they were doing, but defensively they were lost. They were losing him all over the place.
That
he had
first
6
quarter,
threes in the first quarter.
That first quarter was like they didn't scout Steph Curry for the last 8 years.
Yeah, like at the end of the first quarter, someone was like, "Shooter, that guy."
Oh, the Steph guy. We should watch some film on him.
Insane. He's just been clearly the best player on the floor for both teams. Not turning the ball over, being efficient when it's come to him. In the second game, he was doing a really good job of hunting certain guys on the Celtics and calling for the switch on guys like Al Horford, and they were making tons of mistakes and leaving him wide open. And I just thought, from a player perspective, he has certainly been the biggest impact on this series so far, outside of a tough fourth quarter for him, which I really don't blame him for, to be honest.
No, he looked gassed.
He looked totally gassed in that game. And to get him this rest now in game 2, not playing in the fourth quarter, huge for Steve Kerr, huge for the Warriors.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, right? Because obviously we made fun of the Celtics for how they handled them that first quarter of game 1. But then they fixed it. They tightened up on it. They adjusted to it and made the right call. And even Peyton Pritchard looked very committed to his defense on Steph Curry. It was kind of shocking, actually. But that was, okay, you'll give that. It's a lapse in defense from the Celtics. I thought specifically in game 2, it wasn't so much that as it was Steph reading Boston's defense. And I think that he really figured it out in game 2, what they were doing, and knew exactly where his spots for space were on the floor.
Yeah, I got to eat a little crow on this one because I was saying there's not going to be a lot of adjustments going on here because of the way these two teams play.
Yeah.
But in game 2, it felt like Steph Curry figured out the switching that they were doing and the timing on the switching, and he was just exploiting it at every turn. The Celtics are going to have to do something different, whether that's getting up on him more, trapping him, doing something, because the straight switch just is not working.
No, you're right. That's exactly it. He read the switches, and they ran so much pick and roll in game 2 to throw off the Boston switches, confuse them to who was going under, who was going over, who was showing, who was staying. And he figured it out literally to like fractions of a second to know exactly how much time he needed to get his shot off. And he did it beautifully. Yeah. Beautifully.
Yeah, it was really great. So now that we've talked about the stud, let's go to the other side of the coin. If there's a stud, there's always got to be a dud. So who was the dud so far in the series?
Jason Taydud, as I'm calling him. Some people might actually think that that's kind of an odd dud pick, which I understand, especially, after game 2, he scored efficiently. For me, Tatum is the dud here because he had deficiencies in both games, and we've yet to see him here in the finals put together a complete offensive game. Game 1, shot wasn't falling. It was horrible. He could not get anything to go in the basket. And he said, okay, I don't have the shot. and he actively made everybody else on the floor better. He ended that game with 13 assists. He was so good at getting guys to their spots, being the playmaker, and it was great. But look, we talk about this is the playoffs, the finals. This is when your top dogs need to step up. This is when the stars need to shine. If not, what's the point of having a star in your team, right?
Yeah.
You can get guys to make plays. He needs to be the superstar that Jason Tatum has been. And then you go to game 2, pretty efficient scoring game from him. He got a shot going. He was hitting some pretty tough threes. He got it all going. But it felt like if he wasn't shooting the ball, he was turning it over. His passing was so sloppy. He just kept throwing it into 2 to 3 Warriors jerseys every time. I mean, I think it was only 4 turnovers for the game, but it felt like it was so much more than that. And if it wasn't just a direct turnover, he was passing it to guys late in the shot clock that were trying to find that it just wasn't good.
Right. It's the opposite of a hockey assist.
Yeah.
It was the pass that led to a bad pass. Yeah.
He had a lot of hockey turnovers in this game. It was just, look, he ended game 2 -36. It's the worst plus minus of his career.
Yeah, I mean, that's saying something. Obviously, we're not going to read too much into the box score plus minus
is whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But to score efficiently from the field, end with 28 points, and be a -36 in the box score, that just tells you plenty.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean everything, but it certainly means something.
Yeah. And you know, like I said, game 1, he made everybody else better while he scored almost 30 points in game 2. His inability to make the right passes made everybody worse. I actually thought Jaylen Brown suffered a lot in game 2 as a result of Tatum's play. I thought that even guys like Marcus Smart suffered from some of those bad late clock passes. Like, it really brought the rest of the team down, which is why I think he's the obvious dud here. Is this guy needs to have a complete game. They're going back to Boston for game 3. The pressure's on. Tatum needs to have a huge game to make up for the lopsided games he's had in these first 2.
Right now, Jason Tatum is like a struggling baseball team, and I'll tell you why. Okay. Because when you watch a struggling baseball team, there's usually one side of the ball that's doing well and one side that isn't. You're pitching really well, but you can't hit for shit.
Yeah.
You're hitting really well, but you can't pitch for shit. He's doing a little bit of that right now, where it's like, I can hit the shots, but then now I can't pass. And now I can pass, but I can't hit shots. He needs both of those things to sync up and just be good. He doesn't need to even have 30 points for this team to win. As we saw the fourth quarter of game 1, Celtics scored 40 to Golden State's 16 in that quarter. They put on the clamps defensively. Obviously, Golden State missed some open shots, but, you know, give them 10 more points, they still lose this game easily.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was just about creating good looks for guys.
Totally.
And yeah, he was not able to carry that over into game 2.
Yeah, and it bled out to the rest of the team. It felt like every time a Boston player stepped into the paint, the Warriors were out in transition out of nowhere.
Every time it was Smart or Tatum, especially, getting to the paint, there was 3 Warriors around them, just hands all over the place. Draymond Green was super good with his hands, active hands in the paint tonight. I don't know what his steal total ended up being, but he had so many deflections.
Totally.
And it was him and Looney and Gary Payton who were just all over the place in the paint tonight. Or on Sunday.
Absolutely. Okay. So that means that there's only one place to go here, and that's the flood. Where are we opening the floodgates on these first 2 games?
We're picking up right where I just left off. It's Gary Payton II. Gary Payton II didn't play in game 1, is entered into game 2, has an immediate impact in the game. I thought defensively, he was just great. He was great at switching. Like I said, every time somebody got into the paint, his hands were everywhere. He was making everything difficult. He was efficient from the floor, only took 3 shots, but hit them all.
100%.
Hit a nice corner 3 that really put the game out of reach at one point. Just a really overall great game and a great impact on the game. But most of all, it's a miracle. And I say that not lightly, miracle of modern science that this man is playing in the NBA Finals right now.
Thank you. So when you said Gary Payton for the flood, I was like, yeah, Gary Payton was good, of course. Like, I think we were all kind of calling for it in game 1. Iguodala looks washed. You need Gary Payton out here to make things difficult. But it is the medical science that is the true flood here with Gary Payton. This man fractured his elbow.
That's correct.
Less than a month ago.
Correct.
Like just about a month, but a little shy of a month ago. And then comes out in the NBA Finals, the highest stage for a professional basketball player. Hits everything from the floor. And like you said, if you look at his box score, nothing great, nothing spectacular.
Yeah.
He wasn't credited with any blocks, wasn't credited with any steals, but it was his defensive presence that led to blocks, that led to steals, that led to turnovers. He was everywhere. Less than a month ago, Clayton, he broke his elbow. How is this? Did he actually break his elbow?
To that point, I had to look it up. Just to see what's the recovery time on a broken elbow, because I know people who've broken an elbow and something's not lining up for me here. So according to the Cleveland Clinic, a broken elbow should be in a cast for anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. He's at 4 weeks right now.
Okay.
So if he's lucky, he just got out of that cast. After 4 months, you can return to what's called normal activities. You know, that stuff like picking up a cup, writing on a piece of paper, go back to your regular job. That's what we're talking about after 4 months. Complete healing of a fracture in your elbow. It's at least a year. A year. He is at 4 weeks right now.
We're not getting the same medicine.
That is a fact. We are not getting the same medicine.
The same medicine. If you weren't already upset about healthcare in the United States as is, this should just be a gallon of gasoline on that fire. Because not only are we being left out to dry just by the healthcare system, there is clearly modern miracles happening in medical science in the United States that even if you have insurance, we are not getting.
And here's what's even stranger. So we could say like, oh, it's the Warriors. They must have some amazing medical team. Because clearly they do, right? This guy, 4 weeks later.
These guys are withholding the actual cure to COVID right now.
But wait a second. Steph Curry broke his hand and missed an entire season on the same team. Gary Payton breaks his elbow, the thing that makes you move your arm.
It's like he's, was it Sabretooth from the X-Men? Wasn't that Wolverine's father that every time he got hurt, he got stronger? That's what we're watching here.
I hope to God that Joe Lacob promised this man a huge contract in the offseason, because playing this close to a serious injury like that, it's serious stuff.
He's got the Luke Skywalker arm. I'm convinced of it. They gave him a bionic arm.
I couldn't even tell which arm it was. I was sitting there thinking, which arm did he fall on? I can't. And I was trying to see that he looked.
They're both immaculate.
He no sleeve.
Nothing, dude. Nothing. If anything, he got a couple more tattoos on that arm. I don't understand how this is possible. I guess we're just going to have to live with the fact that we're watching a modern miracle and just appreciate it for what it is. Because this man, I'm pretty sure he's going to walk across the bay tonight to get to his flight to Boston. I don't understand how this is possible.
No, it's incredible. That should have been the first headline, honestly. If we're being real, we should have started
front
off the
page
show.
news on like every paper across America.
Medical journals should be doing huge studies on this guy and their medical staff. How on earth this guy is playing basketball right now.
We should not be just so accepting of this. Questions need to be answered. But I guess we're not going to get them. So we got one more thing here in Headliners that I want to talk about. And we've got kind of a shocking one, for me at least.
Okay.
Sunday morning, seemingly out of nowhere, Quin Snyder announced that he was stepping down as the Utah Jazz head coach. He said something along the lines of, I don't have it verbatim, but along the lines of, in order for this team to succeed, there needs to be a new voice in the locker room. You know, I don't think that I'm the voice anymore to lead this team, and step down. First of all, let me ask you, were you surprised by this?
Of course I was surprised by this. And
even given the last couple seasons and how they ended for the Utah Jazz?
And here's why I'm so surprised by it. Not that Quin Snyder is not the coach of the Jazz anymore. Mm-hmm. That doesn't surprise me. But first of all, coaches' contracts are very secretive. Yeah. We don't know a lot about coaches' contracts. Yeah. But a couple of years ago, and I think even only last year, we know that he's one of the highest paid coaches in the league.
Yeah.
We know that the Utah Jazz gave him an extension to be their coach, seemingly for the long term, 4 or 5 year deal, we assume,
Sure.
for this type of coach. So when he says he's stepping down, that means he's walking away from this.
Yeah.
And usually when you see this type of thing, it's the front office moving on, getting some sort of approval from ownership, like, hey, we're going to have to eat $30 million on this, but I think we'll be better if we go with a new coach. No, he's just saying, extension be damned, I'm good. See you later. Just not something you see, especially someone with as winning of a track record as he's had. The stat came out after this that he's the third winningest coach in the NBA since he's entered the NBA. So this is not someone who you would expect to be walking away from a high profile job.
Yeah. Do you mind if I put a little tinfoil on my head here?
I'd love to hear it.
Because it's funny to say that I was shocked because you had to feel like maybe he was on the hot seat, but you're exactly right. It's that he had years on the contract, that he is one of the highest paid coaches, which shocking to me, you nailed it, is him walking away. Because if you get fired as a head coach, you're paid out that contract.
Yeah.
They owe you that money for those years.
We know Ty Lue's been collecting checks from the Cavs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for him to walk away is him saying, I don't want the fucking money.
Yeah, and I know, like, well compensated coaches make like $8 to $10 million.
Yeah.
You know, let's assume he's got at least 2 or 3 years left on that deal. You know, he's walking away from $20-30 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a huge deal.
And so for him to walk away from it like that, because it doesn't seem to be a you can't fire me, I quit thing.
Yeah, it doesn't. It seems like the team wanted to keep him around.
And for his quote to be, this team needs a new voice to succeed, it makes me feel like the front office said, we're going to run it back. And he said, okay, I'm out then. I can't do this again.
Interesting.
It's not going to happen. We've seen it. It's run its course. That's my first thought. My second thought is, when you look at the landscape of head coaching jobs, because we're going to assume a guy who was the third most winning head coach in the NBA since he became a head coach is not all that interested in taking an assistant coach position somewhere. The only team hiring right now is the Charlotte Hornets.
That's right.
The Lakers hired Darvin Ham. The Kings hired Mike Brown.
Yep.
Those spots aren't really there. So maybe this is Quin Snyder saying, you know, I made good money with Utah. I can take a year off because, look, we know that the NBA is not so secretive when you're inside of it. There's not a lot of secrets within the league and the people in the league.
Yeah.
Maybe he's kind of got some info or you know, sees some stuff saying, hey, maybe that Knicks job, that Brooklyn job, that Sixers job, that Lakers job might be up for grabs soon. And I can go grab one of those high-end teams that could be competing for a championship. Maybe I just wait. And maybe it's not even a year.
Yeah.
These moves could happen before the end of next season.
Yes.
I feel like he has a pretty good idea that something juicy is going to open up for him, and he'll be able to swoop in immediately.
That's a really good call. 2 teams you didn't mention that he has strong connections to. We talked about it on last episode. He used to work for the Atlanta Hawks.
Yep.
The Hawks are definitely a team that could be in the search for a coach pretty soon.
Totally.
As well as the San Antonio Spurs. We know he comes from that tree, from the Budenholzer Popovich tree. We know Pop's time is coming to an end soon.
Yeah.
Could that be next year? Could that be a year from now? Yeah, you're right. There are some juicy jobs that could be opening up. I will say, you know, just to play devil's advocate about the Charlotte job, it's, of course, it's not the most appealing job in terms of championship equity right now.
Yeah.
But you do have LaMelo Ball on your team. And that's a guy that I think a lot of coaches would love to hitch their wagon to. And if he thinks this guy's going to be, you know, an all-time great, or he just loves the way he plays, we've seen Quin Snyder be really effective developing players. When he came to the Jazz, it was the end of the Gordon Hayward era. They had just drafted Rudy Gobert. He did a really good job with him, obviously. They get Donovan Mitchell. He puts the ball in his hands. They win a ton of games. So maybe he sees, hey, I did it with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Give me Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball. I'm going to make something real special happen over there. So, I'm with you. I don't think that's the most likely landing spot for him, but it's an open job that does have some appeal, I think.
Could be. I feel like he's probably looking at it as like, I'm past the development stage of being a coach.
Yeah.
I want to win a championship now.
I just thought of this tinfoil hat. What if the Hornets want to trade for Rudy Gobert?
Could be.
And he wants to rejoin with Rudy over there in Charlotte.
That might make it a little more interesting. It's funny to me because he has coached a top 5 defense in the last few years. Look at the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah,
you might be like,
defense.
Dude, there's only room for one miracle in the NBA, and Gary Payton already got it on his elbow. There's no way I could turn that into a top 5 defense.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Like you said, I don't think this is the job for him, but let's not rule it out. They've been very patient looking for a coach here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And yeah, I mean, maybe it's a shame that some of the other jobs have dried up, but I still feel like he's waiting for a juicy one to open up.
Before we go on that exact note, are the Kings or Lakers a little bummed that they made their hire this early? Are they kicking themselves thinking we could have had Quin Snyder, or are they happy with what they've done?
That's interesting. I would say the Lakers are pretty satisfied with their hire. I mean, we talked about Darvin Ham, and they come from the same coaching tree, right? Under Bud. And look, if this works out with Darvin Ham and the Lakers, we're looking at the 4th rookie head coach, 4th first-time head coach in the last, I think, 8 seasons to win a championship. You have Steve Kerr, Ty Lue, Nick Nurse,
and then possibly,
if the Celtics win this one, that would be number 4,
right.
Possibly Ime Udoka. So,
but a lot of first-time head coaches having a ton of success in the last 8 years.
Because they're coming in with fresh ideas, and I actually think it's kind of genius for the Lakers. I know we didn't really get into it or break it down, but you have a very old roster. Maybe the best thing to do is get a completely new, fresh mind and look in there to try to turn things around for an older roster. And then in terms of the Kings, no, I don't think the Kings could be happier with their hire. They hired a coach from the Warriors, and if there's anything Vivek loves in this world, it is anything that has touched the Golden State Warriors.
Right.
He is hell-bent on rebuilding that franchise in Sacramento. He was sitting behind Nick Stauskas at the game 2 in Golden State. I think even if they were still looking for a head coach right now, Mike Brown would be their top choice over Quin Snyder.
It'd be Mike Brown or Kenny Atkinson, probably.
Yeah, anybody that smells like a Golden State locker room, they are going to hire. So I think that they're very happy here. But we'll see what happens with Quin Snyder. There's options here. This is kind of, he gets to kind of dictate what he does next.
And I think, the guy he learned from Coach Bud did the same thing when he left Atlanta. I believe he took a season off and then got that Milwaukee job. So wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's have some fun and let's get into Duo Jam.
All right. I'm excited for it. Let's get into it.
Okay. So we got to recap last week's Duo Jam, which ended last night. We did the first 2 games of the finals. Obviously, only 2 teams to choose from.
Yep.
I picked the Warriors. You picked the Celtics. And we did a guard wing that had to be combined with the big.
Right.
So you had the Celtics. You picked Jason Tatum and Al Horford. First of all, credit to Al Horford for his 4th quarter in game 1.
He turned back the clock in that game.
He looks so young right now.
Yeah, and actually in general, yes, game 2 offensively wasn't his best game, but the way he's moving around the court, he looks cut, thin.
Yeah.
Like, Al's killing it right now.
We talked about on the last episode about Al Horford being the player in the NBA that has played the most playoff games without a finals appearance. Have we just been robbed of maybe one of the greatest finals performers of all time for the last 14 years?
And imagine if his career goes a different way. Let's look in the crystal ball. He didn't face
LeBron when he was in Atlanta.
Well, forget that. How about this? In the crystal ball, in this version of the crystal ball, he's on the Cavs with LeBron James. Imagine those 2 high IQ players, floor spacer with him on those Cavs teams. Could be a very different thing for Al Horford.
Yeah.
Could be entering the Hall of Fame, but instead, just an awesome guy.
just a man with beautiful eyes. So that was your duo, Jason Tatum Sorry, I almost went on a first name basis with him. I don't know what that was. Tatum, through his first 2 games, combined 77.2 fantasy points.
Disappointing, honestly.
Al Horford, incredible performances like we talked about, 52.8 combined through the first 2 games for a total of 130 fantasy points through games 1 and 2.
Okay.
I picked a guy who really kind of put himself on the NBA scene in the first quarter of game 1. His name is Steph Curry.
I think
people
the shooter.
they're starting to figure out that this guy can shoot a basketball pretty decently. And he had a total of 103.7 fantasy points through 2 games. And I paired him up with Kevon Looney, who had a total of 64.7, giving me 168.4 fantasy points, giving me another win in Duo Jam.
Congratulations.
Going back to back. I'm going back. Is it a streak at 2 in Duo Jam, or is it still three wins makes a streak? What are the rules in Duo Jam?
For you, 2's a streak.
2's a streak. Yeah, 2's a streak for me. Absolutely. So we got to play through games 3 and 4 here.
Yeah.
Obviously, same teams. To make it interesting, we're going to swap our teams. To make it more interesting, this week is going to be a battle of the front court.
I love it.
We're seeing this, like the front court is really kind of dictating this series, it seems like. I felt like the Warriors couldn't play small in game 1. Their small ball lineup there was just not enough offensive juice for the Boston defense to care about a couple guys on the perimeter.
Yeah.
And then in game 2, they gave Looney a lot of a lot of tick, and he played a lot out there.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be the difference maker. We've talked about Robert Williams being kind of the difference maker for Boston, especially in the last series.
Right.
His health is a big thing. Al Horford is apparently still 22 years old as soon as he enters the finals. So I love the front court kind of battle that's happening in this series.
Yeah.
So I think it would be fun if we stuck to the front court for this week's Duo Jam. So I'm taking the Celtics.
Yep.
I'm going to start the man himself. We threw out a theory already about this guy. He is dictating the schedule of the NBA Finals, and that is Time Lord himself, Mr. Robert Williams III.
The one and only.
Starting with him. And then the second one is another guy who completely disrespects and does not acknowledge the concept of time. Maybe the new Time Lord. What would be more than Lord?
Time. Oh my God. More than Lord. Duke.
The Time Duke. The Time Duke himself, Al Horford. So I got Time Lord and Time Duke.
I love it.
Representing me this week in Duo Jam. What do you got coming out of the Warriors? You got a few options here.
Definitely got a few options. You know, I'd love to throw the miracle of modern science, Gary Payton, in there. But as much as he does play down low, I can't in good faith choose a guy who's 6'3".
Dude, he's barely taller than me.
Yeah, I can't choose a 6'3" guy for the front court. So I got to go with UCLA's finest, Kevon Looney, who has been incredible.
The new Kevin Durant?
The same one. The Balls Life mixtape legend. You all should go back. We went back and looked at that mixtape. It's funny to see the competition he's facing.
It was like watching Bill Russell highlights.
It's quite funny. Shout out to Kevon Looney and your, I'm sure, phenomenal Wisconsin basketball career. I'm sure it was incredible in high school. I'd love to go back in time and watch those high school games. So I'm going with Kevon Looney.
Yeah.
You know, from a fantasy perspective, yeah, he's not like Time Lord with that stuff, but occasionally can go off for points and rebounds and stuff like that. So hopefully I get one of those games. And I'm pairing him with the always controversial, the podcaster himself, Draymond Green.
Draymond, impossible to get a second tech grain.
Yeah, he was absolutely begging for it in game 2 and just knows that they won't give it to him.
Yeah, he knows it.
He knows that they won't give it to him.
It's so frustrating, but also like just from like a shithead, like troublemaker point of view, fun to watch when guys know that they won't get their second tech.
Are you pro or or anti this Draymond Green podcasting after the games. It rubs me a weird way. I don't know. I don't think I like it.
I mean, look, if they're required to speak with the media and talk about the games, then I don't see anything wrong with him doing it on his own platform.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. I just think if I were his teammate, I'd be looking at him like, really? You can.
There are dude, Jordan was playing like 18 holes of golf and crushing beers before games. I think that there are worse things that he could be doing than like one of the like nerdiest basement dweller things possible in hosting a podcast. Like I think there are much worse things that he could be doing after games.
That's fair.
That are
That's
detrimental
fair.
to the team.
And I think he's done a really good job of setting himself up for the future with this stuff because he always finds a way to be trending on Twitter after all this
like
stuff.
Who was it? Did it come out? It was Bam Adebayo is like a huge gamer and doesn't sleep at night. That he goes home and games
tons of
all
these
night.
Guys, yeah.
Way worse than hosting a podcast.
Yeah, a lot of these guys low key are super addicted to video games.
Yeah.
And like go on Twitch all night.
Yeah, for sure. Way worse than hosting a podcast. So I got no problem with it. But okay.
Yeah. Kevon Looney and Draymond Green.
Interesting. Okay, I like it. We'll see what happens. Was Wiggins ever a consideration for you? Considering the minutes he plays at 4?
Yeah, definitely. You know, the thing with Wiggins is when he's playing just his game and he's just finding stuff that's there for him, he's great. I've seen him try and go at matchups in this series. I don't love it. I just don't love when he tries to exploit the guy in front of him, even if it's a, little Peyton Pritchard. It just seems to never go well.
Yeah.
I just don't love the way he's been playing in this series so far. I mean, I think he's doing his job, but from a fantasy perspective, I'm
Totally
just not
fair.
seeing it from
I get
him.
it, yeah. And that's Peyton the Step Stopper Pritchard to you, my man. Put some respect on his name. Well, that is going to be today's episode. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to check back next week, see how we do in this duo jam. Let us know in the comments who you think has the better front court, at least fantasy-wise, and who's going to win this week. Clayton, what are we leaving everybody with today?
We're leaving everyone with a band that I discovered just a few weeks ago. I've seen their name floating around for a little bit. They're called Alien Nosejob. They're from Australia. It's a one-man band.
Okay.
The dude does everything himself. Started listening to the records a couple weeks ago. Was pretty blown away by. It's this crazy mix of like hardcore and punk and a lot of Devo influence and even like new wave at times. It goes all over the place. They even specifically say on their Bandcamp, like, no genre. There's a weird no genre band.
Yeah.
But they've been putting out their records in America with Iron Lung Records, one of my favorites.
Cool.
And so this song is called Opinionated Fuck, and that is from the HC45-2 7-inch on Iron Lung Records that came out in 2021.
All right.
Everything this band does is interesting, and if you like the song, I highly suggest they have a video. I tweeted it out. It's the website Cult Nation, who covers hardcore and punk and stuff like that. They were doing at-home type of videos during the pandemic. This band did it, but he did it all himself. He filmed it himself. He played every instrument, and the camera cuts between him playing all the instruments and singing while he's doing it. I was blown away at the skill and just everything is fast and live and played with such a ease. But so, I mean, it'll floor you if you're a musician, I'm telling you.
Very cool. Opinionated Fuck sounds like a podcaster. Thank you all so much. We will be back in a few days. Remember to be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other. We will see you soon.
Thanks.